Good evening and a very warm welcome to our remote information session for the sixth form. Whether you are watching at home, watching at work or watching a recording, you are very welcome and thank you so much for giving of your time, and we hope you find our slides useful this evening. Usually we do a parents' information evening within the first week or so of a new term, but we decided this year, given all the changes, that we would give it a couple of weeks to see whether our new systems and routines were embedded and that we could share some good news with you about how well things are going. I am delighted to say that we have actually been pleasantly surprised after the great many changes and the guidance that we had to adhere to. It has been wonderful to welcome your students, or rather, let's start again, your children. You can see this is live. Your children to the school. Our wonderful, wonderful students. They have been absolutely brilliant. They have settled back so well, far better than I think any of us anticipated. And I think they should be given great credit for the fact that they have just come back, many of them new for the sixth form, and got on so well with their studies within the great many changes that we've had to put in place to keep them and the staff safe. Now, the reopening plan and risk assessment can be found on our website. They are lengthy documents, but as I said earlier, they adhere to all of the DfE guidance that has been in place since lockdown. Brains Park High School stayed open for the majority of lockdown, in fact for over 80 school days, only closing for the 3 bank holidays. So we are very well versed in implementing these protective measures. But the most important thing to point out is that we are trying to minimise contact with unwell individuals each and every day. A huge thank you to families for not sending the children in if they are showing any signs or symptoms of the coronavirus. I can assure you that at school, if a student does show a symptom during the school day, we have a fantastic first aid team, the green team, who are very quick to get to our medical room that is very well ventilated, and we have PPE there. Students' temperatures are taken, families are contacted, and they are swiftly collected and taken home. Now, we know that this will have an effect on attendance, which again, we at this point, we really are not worried about. Your children's safety and the safety of the staff is absolutely paramount. So the other things that we have done are to promote hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, and our enhanced cleaning system. We have hand sanitizer all over the school, at the 3 entrances, in every single classroom and office and other key areas around the site. We also have lidded bins in every classroom and every key area across the school, so that should students need to blow their nose, they can quickly dispose of their tissues, as I said, in lidded bins. And there are posters around the school for the Catch It, Bin It, Kill It campaign. In terms of enhanced cleaning, we have a very large site. We also have a fantastic site team and a cleaning company with additional cleaners that are here doing an enhanced clean each and every evening. We also have another janitor that has joined the site team on site, in addition to our janitor that we have had for some time, and between them they make sure that the frequently touched surfaces are cleaned throughout the day. Areas are disinfected, door handles, touch panels, chairs, etc. And so far that has been working really well. We have also altered the learning environment. The classrooms look different. There is a one-way system, which I'll say something about in a moment, and also the staggered start and end times. The sixth form are very fortunate because they do have their own area. So the entire sixth form building is dedicated for year 12 and 13 who are in their own bubble. Again, I will say something more about that in a moment. Now, in terms of reducing contact, this has been probably the key change as well, because as a student body of over 1,000, the students up until the wider reopening are very used to mixing all through the day. However, we have adjusted the day, as I've mentioned, with a staggered start and end. I know that has, for some families, caused a bit of an issue with drop-offs or whatever pickups for younger siblings, but the sixth form have again adapted very well to coming in just that little bit later and staying for the additional 20 minutes at the end of the day. They arrive and are dismissed at the one designated entrance, and as I mentioned earlier, they have all been sanitising their hands on arrival. We also have a one-way system in place, even in the sixth form, again to just ensure minimum contact between the students. I mentioned the year group bubbles, and for those of you with students and or children in younger year groups, you will know more about the bubbles. As I said, for the sixth form it is slightly different because they are very used to being self-contained over in the sixth form. But all the resources are over here. Obviously they have their own toilets and they have their common room as an assigned area for break time and lunchtime, meaning there is absolutely no contact with the rest of the school. I know the one thing the students are missing is going out off-site for their breaks, and as soon as we're able to do this, we will make sure that the sixth form are the first to benefit from that additional freedom that they so looked forward to. In terms of students being distanced from staff, the classrooms have been organised so that there is a teaching zone mapped out in every classroom, and again I will say a little bit more about how the classrooms have been laid out. Now, equipment and uniform is not as pertinent for the sixth form, but in terms of equipment, there are going to be occasions when even sixth formers do forget to bring in a pen or need really to have something lent to them. But for the foreseeable future, I am sorry, we are unable to do that. So it is even more important than usual that the sixth form are making sure they've got their own equipment with them. Now, in terms of face coverings, this I know has caused anxiety for a lot of families, because we hear one thing about public transport and shops and something very different for an education setting. We have made it clear to the students that they are more than welcome to wear their face coverings in the communal areas, in the common room, in the transitions around to lessons. But if you would like your son or daughter to wear a face covering in a lesson, we are very happy for that to happen, if that would make them feel safer and you feel safer. But if you could please email the school on the school@email address, we will make sure that the teaching staff are aware of the fact that there will be a student in their lesson with the face coverings. However, I ought to point out that given the latest guidance, some of which we had last night from the Prime Minister, we know that times are changing and that face coverings may well become mandatory for all students in schools, and we will of course keep families updated. Now, in terms of teaching and learning, the timetable is running as usual. The students are, as we've said, are not moving. The teachers are moving where possible. We haven't narrowed the curriculum. We haven't taken out any courses, so the students are following their chosen courses in Year 12 and Year 13, with, as I said, the resources in an assigned area. Now, where possible, the resources are used maybe, say, on a Monday, and they're not used again to a Thursday, to again make sure that there is no transmission between the year groups and the year group bubbles. Also, the seating plans that have been in place for many years are even more important this year, because this will be, in the case of a positive test, which we haven't had as yet, but I think it probably is only a matter of time, it is vitally important that we know where a student has sat in each and every lesson, in each and every classroom, and I wanted to reassure parents that that is at the touch of a button. We would be able to know exactly where they've been. We are also pleased that Key Stage 4 and 5 have been able to access specialist classrooms, because we do feel that there has been lost learning time. We are keen to make things up, both for Year 12 starting their courses and Year 13s, and so where this is the case, the specialist classrooms are cleaned thoroughly beforehand and then again afterwards. As I've mentioned, the classrooms, the layout has changed. Staff in the past have had a variety of ways that they might have had their desks, but at the moment desks are front facing in all but a minority of classrooms, and where possible the teacher remains at a 2-metre distance. OK, so the next steps before I hand on to Mr Hogarth, it is important to mention the NHS test and trace. Now, we know nationally there has been an issue with this, but we are waiting for guidance for educational settings that is due in October. And again, we will of course be supporting the test and trace, and we'll keep families fully appraised on how we intend to do that. We also had rolled out a summer term pilot for remote teaching, so students could log on using Teams. We know that some of our Year 12 students in the summer, who are now our Year 13s, did benefit from this, and I know the staff, in the circumstances, actually felt that this was preferable to just setting work. We are now in the process, though, of planning for Tier 2, which is why I mentioned that, because we are hoping that in the event of having to implement a rota system, which would mean that we would possibly have some year groups in one week and not the next, and therefore limiting the number of students on site, that we would be able to still give additionality with what is known as blended learning, with some lessons, again, being run on Teams. And we will keep you fully appraised of everything that we are doing. So before I hand over, I just want to thank you. Thank you for your kind words, your gifts, your lovely emails and lovely words in cards, supporting us every step of the way. It has been very challenging, very overwhelming, but we are delighted to be back. Your children have been utterly brilliant. We've loved having them here. I love being back to a new normal, not quite what we'd expected, but a new normal. And we very much look forward to sort of working with you in the weeks ahead in whatever that might look like. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Year 12 and Year 13 and your families. My name is Mr. Hogarth. For those of you that have not met me before, I'm one of the 2 deputy head teachers here with responsibility for your curriculum and the students' outcomes. I want to start by talking about a phrase that you may have heard a little bit about through the press, through the media, or maybe from the Department for Education, and that is the recovery curriculum. Now, I know a number of students would have been apprehensive about returning back to school, thinking about learning they'd perhaps missed either in Year 11 or as part of Year 12, and therefore worried about the considerable gaps that they perceive that they would have. Please do not worry about this. Regardless of whether a student is in Year 7 right the way through to Year 13, this is something that's affected all of them. All students are in the same boat, and we are therefore planning and adapting for this. All of our heads of department have examined their curriculums. They've been identifying what the essential skills and knowledge that our students have perhaps missed from previous years, what's essential moving forward. They've been looking at any changes to specifications, any changes to assessments that exam boards may have released, and been adapting their long-term plans to blend not only gap filling but also the acquisition of new skills and knowledge to make sure that our students are as successful as they can be. We're going to be using a number of strategies to really identify where students' gaps are. So you expect to find that you'll be sort of lots of low stakes assessments, lots of low stakes quizzes, lots of retrieval starters at the start of your lessons, alongside those more formal perhaps end of topic tests and mock exams and end of year examinations. Through this, our teachers will have a real grasp of where your gaps are and be adapting their planning and using that to inform any teaching that helps to move the students forward, to make sure that all those gaps are filled and students achieve the best outcomes possible. In terms of sharing this information with you regarding students' progress, we will issue 3 report cards over the course of the academic year. You'll receive 1 before Christmas, 1 before Easter, and then 1 in the summer term. This will include a whole host of information about their attendance, their punctuality, as well as their academic progress. But perhaps most importantly, will also include information about their attitude to learning. For those of you that are new to Rains Park High School and our 6th form here, we do this through a Learn sort of system and scoreboard, L at the top, then E, A, R and N. This is colour coded on a report card with L being purple and E being green, and those grades down at the bottom being R's and N's indicated in red. This indicates how well a student is meeting deadlines, their effort in their work, how well they're contributing in class, etc., and is perhaps the sort of biggest indicator really in terms of whether a student is likely to succeed. Because as we all know, if the students are putting the effort in, they're completing their work, and they're following the guidance of their teachers, they are then likely to do really well and achieve really positive outcomes. So when you receive those report cards over the course of the year, obviously yes, please pay careful attention to the grades that they're achieving, but also particularly to their attitude to learning. We'll have lots of opportunities for you to discuss this with members of the 6th form team and their subject teachers. We will have our parents' evenings where you'll be able to meet their class teachers, as well as an academic target setting day on Friday and an academic review day later in the summer. Our hope is that as many of these events will be face to face and we will get to meet you in person. Where that's not possible, as is the case under current circumstances, we will do these remotely and therefore make sure that there is plenty of opportunity for you to raise any questions, any queries you may have, and to ensure that you are fully informed as to the students' progress in each of their subjects. And at this stage, I will now hand over to Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Hogarth. My name is Mr. King and I'm the Deputy Head Teacher in charge of Pastoral Matters. And welcome to all the new Year 12s who've joined us. It's fantastic to see you. I see a lot of you at the bus stop lined up so incredibly in your smart uniform, your smart dress, your suits and what have you. So welcome to you all. I'm going to talk to you today about the resilience curriculum. And resilience is one of the 3 core values of Rains Park. And we are really determined to make sure that all our sixth form students in year 12 and 13 have the social and emotional intelligence to make them resilient learners, because that is going to be so important to you on your journey ahead through sixth form and on your next steps in education. And obviously at this time, it's also really important that you are able to work independently, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and that you can pick yourself up and really drive yourself forward, even if you don't have your teachers around. And as a parent of a year 13 daughter last year, I know how hard it was when we went into lockdown, and her and her friends had to work by themselves with the support of teachers with remote learning. So what have we done so far in terms of resilience curriculum? Well, year 12 will know that you had lockdown phone calls, and all of you were contacted last year by Mr. McDonough and Miss McInerney, and we were able to keep tabs on how well you were doing and to support you if you needed that support. All of you have done a wellbeing questionnaire, and we've collated all those responses. It's enabled the sixth form team to target support where it's been needed. You're lucky because you've got your own building, so you've already got that kind of year group hub established. But you have really strong support within that. You're able to email your tutors using your school email if you have any problems, and actively encouraged to do so, because as sixth formers, as nearly adults, you have to take that responsibility as part of developing your own resilience. And you have obviously Mr. Will in year 12, Mr. McDonough in year 13, and Miss Riddle in the study, and Miss List as well to support you. The resilience curriculum is also about re-establishing routines and high expectations. We haven't quite got to making sixth formers line up before they come into school as we do with the rest of the school, but I know, because I speak to Miss McInerney on a regular basis, that you're fantastic in the way you come into school. You're very responsible and you're very mature. And when we talk about behaviour to achieve and establishing that and having those high expectations, what we expect from you is to be the role models for everyone else in the school. And I think you're doing that brilliantly at the moment. So it's about respecting the environment, whether it's in the common room, whether it's anywhere else in the sixth form building. And when you come over for those specialist classrooms, particularly in science, that you observe the protocols and you really show the other students in the school what is meant to be done, because we have those high expectations of you, and so far you've been doing that brilliantly, so well done. So next steps, we want to get back to normal as soon as we can, whatever normal looks like. As Mrs. Hurd said, we've got a new sense of normality. But we want to help you with that, because obviously the year 13 particularly, you're at the start of another journey. You'll start doing your UCAS application soon, and we really want to help you with that, because a lot of that is up in the air at the moment. I've literally just taken my daughter on Saturday up to Leeds University and left her there, so that will be happening to you very soon. Also, we're going to closely monitor your emotional and mental and physical well-being, and we really need you to take responsibility to look after yourselves as well, to keep fit and make sure you're eating well as well, because you're not year 11, you're not year 10, you are almost grown-ups, and we need to treat you like that, and we want you to act like that. We will be providing that targeted support as and when you need it, and the government is making extra money available to schools to support our more vulnerable students, and all students in fact, and we're going to really target that in sixth form. It might be that there's some one-to-one tutoring, it might be we support you in visits to university in year 13, or and so on and so forth. So we're really going to make good use of those extra resources. And finally, obviously, I know you're not children, as it says on the slide, but as young adults, we want you to remain happy and safe at Rains Park, and safeguarding remains at the core of everything that we do. So we're really going to be looking out for you, and we really rely on you. If you are having problems, you are struggling in any way whatsoever, please, in the first instance, contact your tutors and then your heads of year, Miss McInerney. And I'm going to hand over now to Mr. Will, who is head of year 12.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening to everyone watching. As Sir said, I'm Mr. Will and I am head of year 12. I'm going to start by going through a few of the inner workings of sixth form, who the key faces are around the building, just so you get to know a bit of the information behind the scenes. In terms of how the sixth form is run, overseeing sixth form we have Miss McInerney. She is in charge of sixth form and year 11. In terms of each year group, I'm head of year 12, and Mr. McDonough, who I'll pass on to later, is head of year 13. Miss List is our sixth form manager. She is in charge of all of your admin needs. If you need passwords, if there are any appointments that are coming up, Miss List is the person to go to get those booked in with. Mrs. Riddle, she is our sixth form study supervisor. She oversees the study from lesson to lesson. She is making sure that students are using that extra time in their timetables to really push further in their studies, delve deeper into those subjects and advance their subject knowledge. In terms of tutor groups, year 12, and obviously I will go through their pictures in a second, and Mr. McDonough, I will pass on to him as well. So those tutors, Miss Crow and Miss Henderson are joint tutors of 12CH. Mr. Fuller is tutor of 12PF. Mr. Ekpofion and Miss Sandhu are tutors for 12ES, and Mr. Pritchard runs the 12LP and 13LP tutor group. In terms of the year 13 team, as I said, I will pass over to Mr. McDonough in a minute. Tutors are Mr. Jones for 13RJ, Mr. Pritchard for that same 12 and 13 LP tutor group, Miss Sterlini for 13 ST, and Mr. Toombs is her co-tutor. A bit more about the communication within sixth form. Pastoral concerns. So if there's anything sort of internal, external stresses that you may need to talk to someone about, again, appointments or anything outside of school that we need to know about in terms to get you the right support. If you're struggling with lessons, if you would like to change lessons, it's the time at the moment when there's still the opportunity, if you feel like you are not in the right subjects, to come and have those conversations with the right people. This is the route to take. So in first instance, you need to go and see your form tutor. So the people that I've just shown you, the people your children are in afternoon sessions in from 3 till 3:20, a great opportunity to see the same face every day and have those conversations with that individual. Then obviously head of year, me for year 12 and Mr. McDonough for year 13. We have a more overview knowledge of the sixth form and can hopefully help out a bit more in terms of the specifics. If then we need to pass on an issue further, we will then involve Miss McInerney. Okay, and following that, Mr. Hogarth and Mr. King. If it is to do subjects, if it's academic based, then you should always go and see your class teachers first. Okay, they should be the first point of call. Emails to them if it's anything concerning with work, homework, etc. Following that, heads of department will get involved to see if potentially subjects are the right for them or how to develop further in a certain area. If you're looking to study that at university, heads of department have a great knowledge about where potentially it's best to study certain subjects. Again, me and Mr. McDonough will then get involved at a higher level. If there is something we are slightly uncertain about, heads of department have queries about anything to do with our students in those subjects. And finally, once again, if need be, Mrs. McInerney will come in and have those conversations as well. Okay, first point of call should always be with the form tutors and those class teachers, depending on that communication. We have a real big push in year 12, especially making that transition from year 11 upwards. We want our students to be as independent as possible. So it's about them taking the onus, going and have those conversations. So instead of potentially parents calling in, having those conversations for them. Okay, so we want our students to become young adults and have that independence. In terms of the dress code, year 13, this will be pretty familiar to year 12 as well, have come in and started exceptionally well, looking smart on a regular basis. The only slight change for some of you year 13s is that suit jackets are not essential unless you are representing the school. However, I do think most of you look much smarter when you are wearing those jackets. Expectations in the sixth form go across both year groups. Obviously, attendance at the moment is subject to symptoms and if there are any other extenuating circumstances, but above 96%, mainly because if it falls below that, it is upon the student themselves to then catch up with any work that they missed. Again, that independence and organisation, if we are having days off for whatever reason, whatever it may be, they do need to take responsibility and catch up with that work. Teachers will always set the work when students have missed sessions, but it is up to the student to catch up in time for their next lesson. Dress code, we've just mentioned, everyone has started really well. There have been no issues with dress code and you'll look incredibly smart, but that needs to continue. Punctuality to registration and lessons is an obvious expectation that we have here at sixth form, so that we can develop our learning in line with the curriculum for those subjects. Behaviour is something we don't really talk about in sixth form, as it's an expectation that you are here to learn, you are here to develop your subject knowledge, to move on to those next steps. As I've said down there at the bottom, organisation and independence, they are our big keys in sixth form. Okay, we expect our students to be incredibly organised. They have folders for each subject that are meticulously ordered so that they know exactly what they are doing in each session and then what to revise for subsequent exams and mock tests. Independence as well, taking the responsibility. We expect our students to go and have those conversations if there is something they maybe need explaining to them twice. If they are unable to meet a deadline for whatever reason, although we expect that all of those deadlines are met as and when they are set. Finally, from my point of view, Year 12 priorities for this year. Obviously, students have missed a great deal of time between Year 11 and returning to sixth form. We are here to support them to return to full-time education, to be in the classroom again, to how to learn, and we are here to help that transition back into being keen learners. We want to ensure that all of our students are punctual and have the best possible attendance. Again, if there are any reasons, please contact those avenues, so form tutors, Mr. List in the sixth form office, to explain. We'd love to know where those students are so we can get the work to them. We have extremely high academic expectations of all of our students, and again, focusing on that independent learner, going out of their way in using that study time wisely to extend their knowledge further. We're hoping, obviously, dependent on current circumstances, to offer a really wide range of opportunities for students to upskill themselves and give them experience in areas outside of the curriculum. So regardless of what subjects they are studying, potentially to go on and take part in things like DV, to go out and work experience, to work with younger students when it permits, and develop skills that will see them transfer in their CV up to university. As a sixth form team, as teachers, we are dedicated to character development. We want students to leave this sixth form having acquired lots of different skills and prepare them for their next steps. We want them to be ready for all the challenges and decisions they may have to make further down the line. And finally, we want to create an environment in the sixth form that promotes and rewards their progress. We want them to develop and to be better and to achieve those grades that they deserve by the time they come to sit their exams in 2 years' time. I'm just going to pass over to Mr. McDonough, who's going to run through the Year 13 priorities.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Will. My name is Mr. McDonough, and it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you this evening about Year 13. But before I talk about priorities, I just want to re-emphasise some of what Mr. Will said about character. The programme that we have in place in Year 12 continues into Year 13 because we are dedicated to making sure that the young people we have in our care become resilient, independent, focused young people. That is something which continues throughout our sixth form. In terms of our priorities for this year, there is one overwhelming priority, and it's something we started working on already, and that is preparing for higher education. Applying for college, university, and equally at the same time, applying for apprenticeships or the world of work. We like to think that in Year 13 we prepare them for both choices, university, college, or the world of work. And by preparing them for both, we therefore give them choice, which is opportunity for them to decide. So as I said, the work's already started. We are very fortunate in that in our sixth form we have a careers advisor, Ms. Brake, who has another assistant, Mr. Ride, and already we have had a whole series of students having interviews, half-hour interviews, in-depth interviews with students to find out about what their future plans are. And those conversations, those interviews cover all sorts of things about things like CVs, about which courses to apply for, about what apprenticeships may be suitable for them. And it's to encourage them to apply and to prepare for the world of work and university, college. If necessary, on occasion, there will be follow-up interviews where every student in Year 13 will have a bespoke, tailored and quite unique interview about what their future plans are. The next thing I'd like to talk about is UCAS. Now, UCAS this year will be my overwhelming responsibility. I am the supervisor for all UCAS applications, and all UCAS applications go through me as the school advisor. That process has already started. It started towards the end of year 12, when all students opened up their UCAS accounts. And right now they're in the process of completing all sections of the UCAS form. And very shortly, I will be preparing their references, which will then be uploaded onto their UCAS applications. In addition to that, I will be making sure that they are informed about how to apply to different universities, where they will have to apply for 5 choices. Their first choice, their favoured choice, generally speaking, with higher grades required. We'll talk them through that, and also about the necessity to have a reserve or a backup choice for their second choice. And these conversations have already started. In addition to that, very shortly, once we know what students are intending to apply for in terms of university, we will be writing our personal statements. It's a very drawn out process and we're in the early stages of it. And to begin with, I'll be making sure in sessions that they know the structure of their personal statement, because it's very, very important when they're applying to university that that personal statement is as good as it can be. Now, deadlines for UCAS, well, we have one coming up very shortly on the 15th of October, and that is the entry deadline for Oxford, Cambridge, and courses relating to medicine, veterinary sciences and dentistry. So that is the 15th of October, and we will be making sure that students applying are well prepared. The other deadline for UCAS is January the 15th, 2021, but we are hoping that prior to the holidays, all being well, that all UCAS applications will have been sent off. And then in the new year, we'll be hearing about which courses they've been successful in getting places on. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to some key dates. First key dates in terms of sixth form that will be applicable to year 13 is that we have in early October our ID1 data drop. And this is very, very important because this is going to be the first bit of, I would suppose, concrete or hard evidence we have that students have made progress since January of this year when they did their first PPEs. So it's very, very important that students are working hard at home and that parents, in addition, are supporting them in completing their revision and preparation for ID1. Then another date I'd like to draw your attention to is to our dates in January for the round of PPE exams. That will be their first exam since January of this year. So that is January exams in 2021. Then we have soon after the exams and results have been analysed, we have on the 4th of February our Year 12 and 13 Parents' Evening, which hopefully will get an opportunity to meet you face to face, all being well, and discuss how we can make sure that they exceed academically this year. Then further dates to draw your attention to are the dates, generally speaking, when in a normal year the exams would begin, and that is around June and July time of 2021. And then finally, the dates to look forward to, I suppose, are the results day in August. Now, I'd just like to do one more thing. Thank you for joining us, the Sixth Form Parents Information Session. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact your child's form tutor and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So thank you very much for joining this evening. Thank you very much and goodbye.